All right, we're going to start off this episode by installing the dashboard. If you look over my shoulder here, you can see that I pretty much got it all started there. So the reason for that is I wasn't sure how I was going to attack this. This dashboard is the modular dashboard from Brown County Customs, where each panel comes out individually. I thought it looked really cool. But this comes as just a straight piece of metal all the way across. And I had to figure out how I was going to bend it and get it all fitted in there. And I actually went through a couple iterations before I got it sorted out. So what we're going to do is we're going to Tarantino this, and I'm going to show you in reverse how I got to this point right here. Okay, first thing I had to do was establish the length that I wanted this thing to go out. And I looked at some of the stuff online, and it seems to go just about a ½ inch past where the end of the hoop is. So what I did was I marked a line on there, and then I took it outside to a railing that I have on my deck, and I used the railing to manually bend it over. And I'll show you a picture of that here in just a second. Okay, once I got that done, I actually came out pretty good. If you look really closely here, the curve has to go in just a little bit because I was just a little bit wrong on the length. But I've got my steering wheel centered. And then the last thing I did was I set the metal in straight along this little tab here. And I marked a line on it. Then I put it in a brake and I bent it. And now this will clamp right to here. And I'll give you a close-up of that once I get that completed. So that's the basic of how I got to this point, all right? Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull this off, and I'm going to make some brackets. It's an idea I got from IE427. He's got a great YouTube channel, got a lot of great tips on there. We're going to steal his secret. What that does is allows you to be able to get to the screws that you're going to mount this with the body on, because the body, remember, is going to hang down a little bit over the edge of this, right? So if the screws are going in here, the bodies are going to cover them, and if you're going to take it apart, you got to take the body off. We don't want to have to do that. So we're going to steal his idea. I'll show you how that goes. You can see we've got the angle set up here to be able to support the dashboard. I'll show you a picture up close, but this is actually offset just a little bit to make up for this extra material here that you can see on the edge of the dashboard where it's double thickness. So we tried to cover down on that. And then on this last one over here, there's really not a whole lot of room to hook up a normal piece of L bracket. So what I did was I just fashioned something that'll come off the side. It attaches actually to the side here. Have it hang down here to support us being able to put a riv nut down in this area down here. So again, we'll be able to get at it easily with the body on. The other thing that happened as we were working on this is this box showed up from Blueprint Engines. Only 4.5 months late, but here it is, finally. I haven't cracked it open yet. We're going to wait till we get done working on this dashboard and get the wiring laid in, but at least we got it in the house. So let's get back on this. Okay, next step was to go ahead and clamp the dashboard itself in place. What I wanted to be careful is that it didn't go above the top of the hoop, and I wanted to make sure it was centered on the hole for the steering shaft. Now that I've got it where I want it, I'm going to turn around and go ahead and drill all my holes to get the riv nuts in. Let's see how that looks.
Love you.
Love you too.
Good luck filming.
Thank you.
Look at that.
It's true. We're going to continue to drill, and then we're going to go ahead and pull some riv nuts. Okay, I wanted to try to zoom in here so you could see it. By the time I got everything balanced out and mounted the way I wanted, this hole came out right here on the corner of this little tab. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tab off, and I'm going to extend it out to about here so it has more meat to actually catch that riv nut that's going to go in there. So we're going to go ahead and take all this off and then build another one to slide it over to about here. And you can see what I ended up doing was building the same kind of bracket on this side that I used on the other side. So it's hooking on this part here and wrapping around to provide purchase for the dashboard. Okay, for those of you who haven't seen a riv-nut tool before, it's pretty simple. It's a Tool 607 riv-nut. You can get these on Amazon. Pretty easy to find. I'm going to use a 1032 bit, so you just screw that in the top there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to drill the hole large enough to accept the riv-nut, so I'll be expanding these out. And what you do is you open up your arms, you screw the riv-nut in place, then you put it through the hole, and you bend these arms down until it's just snug, and then you take this lower handle here, and you just unscrew the riv-nut, and now it's ready to sit in there and accept the bolt or screw that you're going to use. Once I get that unscrewed, there you go. So let me go ahead and do a couple, and we'll see how it works. Okay, this riv-nut requires a 9/32 hole, so we're going to go ahead and open this up. As well as these. Okay. Open our arms, screw our riv-nut in place. In the hole. Easy, just till it's snug. And in this case, I gotta go a little tighter. There you go. Unscrew it. And boom, there you go. Riv-nut installed. We're going to do that on all these holes and go ahead and get some 1032s and secure this in place. Okay, there you can see the riv-nuts are installed. Here. If you look over here to the center one, you notice the riv-nuts installed way over here on the side. The reason for that is this is where that obstruction on the back of the panel starts. And I wanted to make this long enough that I could get 2 good rivets in here to hold this in place. Okay, here's the completed installation. Everything is nice and solid. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull everything apart, and we're going to send this dashboard off to get a special powder coat treatment. Okay, we're ready to start on the electrical. The book is pretty much got everything laid out. Everything's labeled real well. It should be pretty easy to put together, even for someone like me who doesn't know anything about this stuff. But you got 3 major harnesses. You have the main harness with the fuses and the part that goes up to the dash. You've got the rear harness and the front harness. The first thing you do is we're going to drill some holes in the front to go ahead and set up for the harnesses to be able to pass through. Let me show you how we're going to do that. Okay, step 1, we're going to measure from the edge of this firewall here, 14 3/4 inches. Gary, if you could hold that for me. 14 3/4 is right there. Okay, and up from the bottom is 1 1/4. Is that correct?
Yep.
All right. Okay, and from the first point up here, we're going to move over 2 1/2 inches and put a dot. Then move over another 2 1/2 inches and put a dot. So
Just measure left.
Yep.
The first point.
So we go 2 1/2. Okay, you can see all the way over here we have our 2 holes already drilled and ready to go. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab the main harness and you feed the wires up through this hole here and then over the top of the steering column. Now, there is quite a lot going on. It is way easier with a second set of hands. Now, what we've already done is there's a bolt here where the wheelwood assembly bolts in. We had to cut away a piece here to make room for that to happen. And the other thing we did, which I learned at the build school, is this fuse box bolts right up underneath here, okay? Just like this. And what we're gonna do is we put a piano hinge on it, and we'll have a single screw that'll come out, and then this will just drop down so that when you need to work on your fuses, you can tilt them down about 45 degrees. That's about all the cable room you have, but you can still see what you're working on, and it's a great idea. So that's how we're gonna hook that up. I'll go ahead and get that drilled and in place, and we'll take a look at what it looks like. All right, here you can see the completed installation. You can see the hinge down at the bottom, and right where the arrow is pointing right here, that little knob unscrews, and then the whole panel just falls down so you can easily access it. All right, turns out I made a pretty big mistake here. From looking at the pictures, it looks like they were measuring from here to here. Upon further review, now that we realize the wires don't fit, it's actually measured from the brake box side 14.75 inches out. So I'm going to have to re-drill those holes and figure out something cool to do here. We'll worry about that later. There may be other things that can come through those holes, but for now, I have to move this over and re-drill it. Okay, so after we have the fuse box in, we ran the first few wires for the starter and the alternator through this hole here. Now that I have the holes drilled correctly. This is going to work out okay because we'll be able to use those other holes for the heater box. But this is officially the first cord I've plugged in, and it goes to the inertial switch, which we mount right next to the steering column with 2 self-tapping screws. And that's it. First plug is in. We're on our way now. All right, the next thing we're going to install is the ground wire. The book gives you some latitude of where to exactly put it in here. The most important thing you have to do is wherever you decide to put it is to make sure you get all of the powder coat off before you attach it so it gets a good connection. I'm going to go ahead and connect mine right here on the top of this cross member. That way there's plenty of slack in the cable so I can lower down my fuse box to get access to it. We're going to hook up the brake switch. You remember we hooked the brake switch up on the master cylinder bracket and the whole assembly for the brake underneath there, so it's really hard to see. So I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. But basically, the 2 front prongs on the switch, remember the switch for the brake and the clutch look identical. The 2 front prongs are for the brake. Get a purple and an orange wire. It doesn't matter which one you hook it to as long as it's the front portion of the 2 front prongs on that switch. Here's a good look at the switch. Here you can see the 2 front prongs we used for the brake and the 2 rear prongs we used for the clutch. So I'm going to hook that purple and orange wire to these 2 prongs right here for the brake, and then I'll come around for the clutch and do the same thing with the appropriate clutch wires on the back part of the one that's hooked to the clutch side. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and wire up the ignition. Everything's labeled pretty well here, and they've already got the wire ends on. So we hook the red wire to bat. We hook the brown wire to ACC, and we're only going to use 1 wire because we have a single wire alternator. And then we're going to hook the orange wire to ignition, and the 2 blue wires go on top for the starter. And then we'll get that all bundled up nice and secure and ready for installation. All right, there it is complete. So this is the 1 brown wire that we're just going to tape to the side here as it says in the book. And then we're going to go ahead and gather all this up and get it all straightened out, and then we're going to cover this whole area here with tape so we don't get something that inadvertently shorts one of these posts out and causes us an electrical issue. And there it is, all finished up, taped up as shown in the book. Next thing we're going to do here is we went and we ran the rear harness through this hole. This is one of the holes that I made the mistake on, but it shouldn't matter because this is independent and it's going to run straight to the back of the car. What I don't like is the grommets are backwards. So on this one, the protrusion is on the inboard side. On this one, the protrusion is on the outboard side. And there's really no way to flip them around without splitting them, which I don't want to do. So I'm just going to live with that. It's not going to be visible, but it is going to haunt me in my dreams. Once you get this through, plugging it in is easy because there's only 2 plugs that these can go to. The white one shaped like a triangle plugs into the white one shaped like a triangle. And then the black one is the only 4-holer. Plugs in like this. That one's good. What am I doing wrong here? Okay, what I found here is these bottom pins are kind of bent downwards just a little bit, and it's not plugging in. That could be from me trying to force it on the first time, more than likely. So we get these pins centered where they're supposed to be. Now, see if we make the magic work. There we go. Works great when you do it correctly. Okay, we're going to use some zip ties here. This is a quick trick that I learned a long time ago with zip ties. Tried keeping them in bags. I've tried rubber bands. I've tried all kinds of stuff. But what I have found is the best thing to do is just get them in a bunch and put one zip tie around them all. Get it on there tight. And then as you use them, you can see here, you can drop this on the floor. These things aren't going to go flying, but it's still really easy to pull one out, right? And then, more importantly, as you pull them out and this gets smaller, you just pull it tighter. So, neat little trick. I don't know who taught me that, but saves you a lot of playing pickup sticks with zip ties. Okay, for the rear wire harness, I was able to use one of the stray holes that I drew accidentally. The only difference is instead of running the wires down the driver's side, I just simply ran the wires down the passenger side of the car. And you'll see right here, I left the zip ties on to make it easy to see. Here, let me jump over to the other side, you can see it better. There we go, now you can see it running along the top of the transmission tunnel there. Note this green and gray wire here, that plugs into the emergency brake, which I'm not using. So I'm going to go ahead and just zip tie that up out of the way, but I wanted to leave that out. So if you guys are wondering what to do with that, that plugs into your emergency brake. We're not using that. So that just gets snubbed. Comes through here and then goes up into the back. Okay, a little bit hard to see here, but basically, we run the wires up along the sides of the transmission, and then we get them all hooked up to this main cross member here. And then we split off the turn signals, driver's side, passenger side. Then we take this one wire, you can't really see, there's the junction right there, but it originally called for it to run all the way out down by where it exits on the passenger side, then up here to get over to here. But what I decided to do is just run it across the back of here, and I put some attachment points on there. Then through this hole right here, and I'll put a grommet on there. Then it'll come back over the top, back up here where it's supposed to go. Everything just works a lot better that way. I will probably have to put a little grommet where it comes over the top here, or just something to protect it where the body is going to rub there, but I'll figure that out when we get to that. More than likely what I'm going to do is I'll put a grommet in that little piece of tin, this one here, and then just run it like that. Just have a grommet there and a grommet there. So I'll get you a close look at what those grommets are going to look like. Okay, so here's what I was talking about. I have the wire come through here, so I'll put a grommet here, and then I'm going to run it through this piece of tin here. So I'll put another grommet there, and now it ends up exactly where it needs to be without running it all over heaven and hell to get there. Back here on the fuel tank, it's just two easy attachments. The gray one goes to the fuel level sensor, and then the red one hooks up to the fuel pump. And that's all that's to it on the backside. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do on the backside is I'm going to take this. Remember, we got the e-stop brake out here coming through a little grommet here. So I'm just going to run this right along that wire back up into the cockpit so that we can have the switch on the panel to control the e-stop. And there it is. You can see the wire to the e-stop brake piggybacking on the main wiring harness going back through the firewall into the main cockpit area so we can hook it up to the dashboard. Well, that's it. We've gone as far as we're going to go with the wiring harness for now. Next step is to put the engine in. So be sure to like and subscribe, and then tune in for episode 12. You want to see it? Better tune in to the next episode.